Tri-State has one where you have to put in a special code that is unique to you. I don't believe that that's the case here. So I'll get that out to the board members this afternoon. The fiber project is continuing to move forward. Scott, I think in his report has touched on some of the information related to the contractor that's scheduled to begin work May 1st. As we discussed with the board last month, we have had some discussions with parties other than the potential partner that we had been working with, because they have been somewhat radio silent and we believe that they're, as I mentioned last month, having difficulty finding investors to back them. There will be a presentation to the board in executive session this afternoon, and you will have the opportunity. We sent out the presentation to you to review. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions of the entity, and hopefully we'll figure out whether or not that's something that that we are interested in pursuing at all. The OMS system went live. We mentioned that, I believe, at the last board meeting. We got the opportunity to test it out with the outage in Granby, and there were a few bugs that we identified in it. And we had an after-action meeting with the management team and identified some of the tweaks that we need to make to it on both the IT side and then some of the communication side, both internally and externally. So those have been put in motion, and not that we want to have an opportunity to test it again, but if you guys get 52 inches of snow, I have a feeling we may have an opportunity to test it. So I will pause again to see if anybody has any questions on any of those that I just talked about. Seeing none, we'll move along. I am probably stealing part of Rob's thunder here, but just want to let the board know we have been working on an event, a ribbon cutting for the electric school bus in Kremling. It is currently scheduled for Thursday, the 18th at 10:15. And we will be sending out invitations to the board. We finalized the invitation yesterday. And so we'll be sending out invitations to the board if anybody wants to attend. We have other things that are going on that might, for some of our board members, conflict with that. But we'll hopefully have a smattering of board members at all of the different events that we have the opportunity to attend. We did the check presentations from CREA. We had one for the employees, one for first responders, and then one for Mountain Family Center and Grand Foundation. I believe Jeff was there representing both Mountain Parks and CREA as president of the boards. And from everything that I know, it went pretty well. And I think everybody was happy with that. Next item is the DOE grant. We anticipated as we were working through this, and Rob has done a lot of work on this to try and get us across the finish line, that we were not going to make it to get the full application in. What we subsequently found out, and DOE did not tell us this, we got the information from somebody else, they extended the deadline by 2 weeks. We have been in contact with the 3 outside entities that we would partner with on this. Those entities are Sweep, Energy Smart, and the Griffin Labs in Boulder. There's a 4th that we had a conversation with yesterday that would work with Energy Smart. So far, everybody has been extremely responsive. We actually have the documents back for one of them. We expect the documents for the second one today. And then I'm going to reach out tomorrow to the 3rd one, because they're the only ones that have not responded, and they're the first ones we had the conversation with. So we believe that it is possible for us to complete the application and upload it by the 17th, which is the deadline. It may not be in exactly the format that DOE wants, but we've been getting information for letters of commitment that are required from the third parties and other things. And some of them have gone through this process before. So we've gotten examples of things that we can provide to the various parties to hopefully get us to where we need to be. So with that, I will pause again to see if anybody has any questions. Seeing none, we will move on. Jessica and I have been doing a lot of work, mostly Jessica, on the medical benefits. We have the renewal that will come up on July 1. We expect to have some information for the board at the April board meeting on different options that we have for renewal. We had a couple of hiccups with the plan, which we have worked through with GPA, ELAP, and IOA RE, which is our stop loss carrier. With any plan, when you put it in, you're always going to have bumps in the road. And I think we've attempted to resolve those as quickly as possible and work with not only the employees, but with providers and the companies to make sure that they do what they need to do. So won't say any more on that for now, because Jessica may have comments on that. We had our all-employee breakfast on March 4th, and Jeff was our first board member to be our guest speaker. What we have decided to do is at the beginning of each of these all-employee breakfasts, and they're about once a quarter. Well, they have been less frequent recently, but once a quarter, that we will bring in a board member and give the board member a chance to introduce himself to the employees, kind of, what got them interested in being on the board, what they see as some of the issues. And so I will be looking for a volunteer for our next all-employee breakfast. So don't everybody raise your hand at once, but think about it. And if you want to be that person, we can get you in for that. And the last item that I had was the audit exit conference is scheduled for also 3/18. It starts at 9 a.m. and it will be by Zoom, because they're here this week. They will be gone next week, but the other option was to do it today, and that didn't necessarily work with the board meeting. I know that Dick and Justin have expressed interest in being at that, so we'll get that information to the two of you. If anybody else wants to attend that, just let me know. And maybe what we'll just do is send out the information to all the board members so that if you want to attend, you can. And I anticipate that it's probably an hour and a half, possibly 2 hours, but don't know. Stacy's not on today because she's getting to deal with the auditors and having all kinds of fun with that. So that is the end of my report, unless anybody has any questions.
I just want to say the employees are way ahead of you. Stacy sent out invites to the audit thing, and Chris has already gotten the invite out to the school bus, I think, for the school bus thing. So it's pretty cool to hear you say we'll be getting them, and we've already gotten them.
Well,
very efficient.
In fairness, I wrote my comments yesterday, so but if there are no more questions, I will note that the safety report is now under my report. We made the decision last year, prior to Stan leaving, to move the safety officer under the general manager and to remove any appearance of objectivity because they were within operations. And, you could look at it from the outside and say, well, that's like the fox watching the hen house. And so we moved it under me. So the safety report is attached to mine, you see there. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to to try and address those. The one near miss that we had 2 vehicles. They were headed to a job. One was pulling a trailer with a piece of equipment on it. They started up a hill. The first truck made it up. The second truck pulling the trailer stopped on the hill and was not able to get going again, started backing down the hill. The vehicle slid, and there was minor damage. There was a vehicle that was on the side of the road, a work vehicle, and the trailer damaged the hubcap on that vehicle. So we'll be replacing the hubcap, but we have already used that in the safety meeting as a teaching moment. And Brian is doing a fabulous job on making sure that as these issues come up, that he is using them as teaching moments for not just the operations staff, but all of the staff. Yeah, since he's not on, I will tell a little story on him. Last week when there was a little bit of snow and the parking lot was a little slick, he was walking over to the warehouse and he slipped and fell. And it happened to be just before our one-on-one conversation. And so we talked about it. And I said, well, what we did in Anchorage is we had these grippers that we gave to all employees so they could put them on their shoes. And he said, yeah, we have those too. So he used his own experience as a teaching moment for employees and put out an email to employees to be careful when walking in the parking lot. So I will pause and see if anybody has any questions on the safety report. If not, then would look for a motion to approve it.
Move to accept.
Thank Liz. We got a motion by Liz and a second by Justin. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, it looks like the motion carries. Mark?
That then gets us into the discussion action items. The first is board policy D8, contested director elections. And it was on the agenda and there was discussion with the board last month. There are some edits that Levi has made to the policy in red based on the comments that were made last month. So I will open it up to the board for discussion.
Mark, I don't see any red line on it, but it is G that we're talking about, right? 1G. There's no red line on mine, at least.
It's A. It's D8. And I've got at least the one that I have. It there are red lines on D and G.
Okay.
Yeah, the updated version in.
Did you refresh,
does.
Jeff?
You need
That
to
half
refresh, Jeff.
circle on the left, it should come.
I don't
up.
want to touch it. I'm not going to touch it.
Come on,
No.
live a little.
Mark,
It'll
under
be fine.
Mark.
I read.
Go ahead, Dick.
Under nomination, election, and voting, under E, the new E, it says deadline for shall. And so I think the for has to be removed. It's just when we did the
No.
red line, we forgot to remove one word, I believe.
Where?
It's under the new E.
So what, you got to give me an article.
No,
It's okay.
it's two. It's Article 2. It's the new E, but I think
Well,
that
Dick, the
Dick is
version that I
not
see-
seeing the mailing ballots. The deadline for mailing ballots shall be posted. I think you're seeing that the mailing ballots is struck through, but it's
it
not.
didn't. Okay,
It's underlined.
popped in now. I refreshed. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
And I will, in case board members didn't see it, Kristen did send an email to the board yesterday related to her comments on this policy. So I don't know if everybody got a chance to read that.
Oh,
But-
I didn't see it.
Levi,
Basically, I think that she was supporting the changes that were made and was asking the board to support them as well.
Okay, there are a couple of things. I recognize these policies are written for, based on statute, written by attorneys, kind of to guide us as to how we run our elections, as to how we run our elections. On the other side of things, I try to think that we're a member-focused co-op, that we put the members in the center of things. And I think if we were to send them out this policy and say, this is how we're going to run our elections, a lot of them would be scratching their heads because of the way it's a little more legalese than plain English. So that's just a general policy. And I know Jeff is like, we spent a lot of money to get this right. But that's just a comment. As you read some of these paragraphs, they're just like head scratching. I support the amendment that strikes the 7 days. One thing that I would think that members would want to know, and maybe it doesn't have to be in this policy, but Levi added under Article 2, under Article 6 ballot procedures that the cooperative may add the secure ballot box. I think members will want to know, like, how long is that going to be there? When can I drop my ballot into that secure box? Is it going to be there till Friday at 5? Is it going to be there till Wednesday?
Liz,
and how, go ahead.
Yeah, so the reason I left that flexible is so that deadline is not something in statute, so we don't necessarily have to have it in there. But more importantly, the reason I left it flexible is Rob was saying that, for example, in a year where there's an election in Walden, there might be one in Walden, which might change when the deadline for those to be picked up would be. So I agree that going forward, we would want to post that on the website and otherwise let members know when those would be picked up, what the deadline would be for that. I just felt like because this was the first year we did it the way we're doing it, and to add flexibility, that's why I did it that way.
Okay. Well, as long as we know, we make an internal note that we need to publicize when
I think that
box is. And then the other thing that I just saw is in some spots we tell members that their ballots have to be returned to Mountain Parks Electric. And then later on, where we really get down, and I'm trying to find the paragraph, then we say the ballots need to go to the Credentials Committee. And I'm just a little concerned about, I know that Mountain Parks Electric has designated the Credentials Committee as accepting the ballots, but that was just one. I'm assuming.
Can you give me an example so I can
Yeah,
find it?
let me see if I can find it. In the meantime, anyone else that has
Well, I think Liz, six.
well, here
A.
F. So 1F, 25 days before the elections, ballots shall be mailed. Oh, that's by, never mind.
Liz, look at 6A, just above the red, because it says return envelope shall be addressed to the Credentials Committee.
Right, I saw that,
What?
but I thought that somewhere else it said that they had to be returned to to Mountain Parks.
Well, the red that's in there says the co-op may also provide a secure ballot box for members to deliver voted ballots to MPEI.
Right, yeah. It's okay, move along.
And that'll be, Liz, if you do find it, just feel free to shoot me a message and we can handle that easy. And
Yeah, I had just noted when I read it that was something, but it's possible that I misread it.
It's 3D, number 5.
Yeah, deadline for members to mail ballots to MPI. And maybe that's,
So a couple things. I mean, the credentials committee is, while it's a third party, I mean, they are contracted by Mountain Parks. So I mean, like legally, it doesn't.
okay.
And theoretically, you know, so the requirement to use a third party, you know, isn't all the time. It is when practicable. We have decided to do it going forward. But yeah, I don't have a problem changing that to credentials committee because that's what we use everywhere else.
Yeah.
Levi, can you just kind of summarize the email that you put out with your red line for, I guess the biggest portion was, what was it, 1G? Is that what you?
That's probably too much legal advice that I'd like to give an open session. Session. Sorry.
Do you want to delay, Jeff? Do you want to delay action on this until we receive his legal advice?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. I'd kind of like to listen to that recap.
Okay.
We can
With
add that.
Jeff, will that put us in a situation with any upcoming election? Now that we're in March already and our meeting's in June?
Oh, I think we can still do it today. We'll just have executive session.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mark, we can probably just add it to our executive session at 12:30. What do you think?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody else?
And I'm pretty
Okay.
sure mine is not showing the red line version. I mean,
Mine's not
even
either.
while we've talked, I've updated it like 5 times and it's still the same one I have been looking at for the last month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you guys aren't getting it then. It's clear it's red lighted. Red
And
line.
it was emailed out by Levi yesterday. Was it Levi or 2 days ago?
That's what I've been
Yeah.
referring back to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's kick that can down the road at least till after lunch. So that puts us to B, Mark.
Okay, so D10, which is member, consumers, and media attendance at director meetings. There, at least on my copy, there are no red lines. And I believe that this is the first time this has appeared on the agenda. So if board members have any suggested changes, we can take those, make those, either make them and have the board pass a resolution or bring it back with those changes next month.
Levi, you got a chance to look at this one?
Let's see, which one? Sorry, I was just
D10.
writing some notes. We are
D10.
on D10. No, sorry, I did not get to this one yet before today.
The only thing I would say on it, and I read it and I was like, well, this is okay. And then I'm like, read it and I thought, well, how does it apply to our current way of meeting? And do we need to put something in there about virtual meetings? I mean, I'm not sure whether we do or not. It was written in a time when the meetings were physical.
2003.
Yeah. It was updated in 14, but still, I'm not sure. It doesn't really seem to apply. I mean, we've had public comment and people attend the meetings and we're live streaming the meeting. So clearly people can attend the meeting. But I don't know whether we need to have the policy reflect that it's actually even more expansive now.
Yeah, and that can be, and so that was one of the things I looked into that we can discuss in executive session regarding the proposed legislation regarding remote attendance at board meetings. So we can discuss that in executive session as well.
Is that covered under the House Bill 1131, Levi? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not sure what the number is, probably what it was House Bill, what did,
1131, is that the governance bill?
yeah, I don't know. I got it before it was introduced, so it didn't have a number associated with it.
Okay.
Only one point in here, we say members and consumers in most places. And under C, it says members and or consumers. I don't know if that's done for a reason or it was just never changed. But we should make the reference similar, I think, throughout. And I guess under NRECA now, we are all member consumers, not members and or members and consumers. I didn't know whether we should.
Well, NRECA
Make that-
is talking PR, and there can be non-member consumers. So,
Yeah, think about a rental place where the meter's in somebody else's name, they're a consumer. And then I noted it just says other members of the public, it's almost like it's the public.
Well, just make it consistent was my point.
well, sometimes there is a reason to differentiate, and other times not. So,
We want to, Levi, you want to talk about this one in an executive session
Yeah.
as well?
yeah,
Okay.
given Liz's questions, I think we should.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for this before we move to D11? We'll talk about 10 in executive session. Everybody good? Okay, let's go to D11.
Which is in-kind support, service support. And there are no red lines. So Levi, I assume you did not have an opportunity to review this one either.
I just reviewed it. It's short. It's good.
The only time I can remember this ever coming up with, I think Joe Pandy was running for CoBank position, and had a bunch of flashlights or something printed up. Or made up. That's the only time I can ever remember this coming into play, unless I'm wrong. But
It's probably a good idea if the board ever were to feel strongly that they wanted to
Yeah.
have a director on an affiliate board that's important to move something that Mountain Parks, I don't know. I don't have any objection to it, so I would move to accept it. We don't
Thanks,
have
Liz.
to use it if we have it.
yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool. We got a second by Dick. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, so ratifying the MPEI deferred revenue, you may think that you're having deja vu. As you recall, we passed the first resolution to approve MPEI's deferred revenue. Yet at last month's meeting, staff told you you would have been ratifying that decision. And staff told you that RUS had decided that we needed another paragraph in the resolution. So you ratified the first decision and then passed a resolution for the second one. Since it didn't meet the notice requirement, you need to ratify that second decision. We thought that RUS had come back to us and said, well, we don't like the second one either. And we were maybe going to have to go a third time. We were able to work out our issues with them or their issues with us. So hopefully, once you ratify your decision that was made in February, then this will be put to bed for at least another year.
Okay. Somebody want to take a stab at that motion, the ratification of the ratification?
Well, no, you're just ratifying your decision made in February because they're separate and distinct, even though they're the same thing over and over.
Okay, we still need to make that motion though, right?
Yes.
For the ratification. Okay.
I'll move that we ratify the decision approving Mountain Parks Electric deferred revenue plan that was made in, the decision was made at the February board meeting.
Thanks, Liz. A second by Dick. Any further discussion, questions on that? Okay, all those in
So,
favor? Oh, go
Hold
ahead,
on,
Liz.
I've got one question.
Yeah.
The document that was in our February packet, is that, does that have any changes? Did that get that extra paragraph or, okay,
Yeah, it had the extra paragraph.
paragraph in
It
it?
did not have any additional changes, which was what RUS was looking for.
Okay,
And we were able to convince them that, you know, what 2 times should be sufficient.
okay, so that document is the document we're operating
Yes.
under. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Carl, are you there? You're awful quiet.
I'm here.
Okay, just checking on you.
He keeps
I'm
raising his
just
hand,
keeping,
Jeff.
I'm just keeping my phone muted, so I don't have any distraction for you.
Okay, just making
Well,
sure you're there.
On this next one, Carl, I think I'll ask you to maybe give a little bit of an update on any action that the Tri-State Board took on Board Policy 125.
Yes, they did. I can do that if you want. You want me to do it now?
Yes, because then I think that it was requested that we put this on so that we could discuss it, and I wasn't sure what the Tri-State Board had decided about.
Well, we had a discussion on it. There was quite a bit of opposition. There were some modifications to it. But I haven't seen a changed policy yet. But the fee was dropped to $75,000. The fee won't exceed $200,000. 60 days after first approval, calculations will begin. 3 years notice of withdrawal, and there was a modification by Stewart and Morgan, I think, and I haven't seen the language yet, but that if a member didn't withdraw and paid their fees, that they would be refunded after a period of time. But like I said, I haven't seen the final policy. But it was voted on, 10 noes, and it was approved.
Okay.
Carl, I had a question.
Pardon?
I have a question. It's Dick. If someone decides they want to go through with this, what is the timing of figuring out the dollar figure? You've got to have a 3-year window. Is that subject to change, or is that going to be, say we decide now we want to withdraw. We can't withdraw for 3 years. When is the timing of the figures coming out, and how does that mesh with somebody making a decision if they want to leave? That's quite a large timing of a window. And how would you work that out?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, well, your opinion on, was that discussed? I mean, a 3-year window, do you get your figure now and you have to wait 3 years? Or do you give them notice now and you get the number 3 years from now? I mean, that's quite a large window of opportunity for things to change. And you need 3 years notice, or Tri-State needs 3-year notice. I can understand them wanting that. But when do they give you your number? And how long is that number good for? I mean,
I think the 3-year period is how long the number is good for. I don't remember. It seems to me like 60 days after request for the number is when they have to supply it. But I think the 3-year window is when you have to exercise a withdrawal or the number changes.
Yeah, and I think based on the conversations with the member CEOs and Dwayne Hiley, a co-op will request a number. Tri-State will go through and calculate a number and provide it to the co-op. the co-op has a period of time, and I don't know that that's been specified, where they can exercise and say, okay, we're going to exit based on this number. They have to give, when with that exercising their option, they give 3 years notice, so they don't actually leave for a 3-year period.
They can't leave for the three. I mean, they're in for that 3-year period.
Right.
Is that what you're saying, Mark? Okay.
Yes.
So just a question, Levi, do you know how long it was between the time, say, Kit Carson or Delta Montrose got their number and when they left?
No, I was going to ask the same question.
It was approximately, I think, a year to a year and a half.
And for example, DMEA had to sue and go through partial litigation at PUC before they finally settled on their number.
Yeah, and
Right.
but once they got the number, they gave Tri-State a 1-year notice, and that was, I think, agreeable between the two parties, and so it allowed.
Oh, you mean from the settlement? It was a year.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm sort of like, they agreed on a number. All those ended, Tri-State and Kit Carson and Tri-State and DMEA both agreed on a number. I'm not sure exactly how they hassled over the transmission and all of that, but their exit from the time they agreed on that number was probably
3 years.
not 3 years. And I'm just curious why 3 years is necessary. And then the other question I have is, does policy 125 still say, Carl, that only 3 co-ops can get a number in a year?
I think it does.
So conceivably, if there's 12 co-ops that ask for numbers and you're at the end of that line, it's 4 years till you get your number, and then 3 years till you can leave. So you're in there for 7.
And that's my interpretation, yes. And also I'll mention too that this is filed with FERC, so there is opportunity for a settlement. And I think there's going to be some co-ops that's going to object at FERC. So what the final thing that FERC accepts is unknown at this time.
So will it, right now you said it's Tri-State's policy that this will go into effect 60 days after it's accepted or approved by FERC?
Approved.
Okay, so Tri-State's saying that if a settlement is reached, that they will abide by that settlement, and it will go into effect 60 days after it's agreed to by the parties.
Well, they have to abide by FERC settlement. Then 60 days after that is approved by FERC, they will be able to start calculations.
And do they see that this policy 125 will be rolled up into the current settlement process?
I don't know. I can't answer that one.
I would expect that it would be, because initially the contract termination, or CTP, was filed, and then the buy down payment was filed, and it was rolled into the CTP document. And then these policy 125 actually is the roadmap of how you implement the CTP. So I expect that it will be rolled into the CTP docket and possibly be a part of any settlement that is reached by the parties.
And that will be up to FERC to roll that into the all into one or not, I assume.
FERC can do it on its own motion, or one of the parties can ask that it be consolidated into the CTP docket, one or more of the parties. And I would expect that if FERC doesn't do it on its own motion, then one or more of the parties will ask to have it consolidated, because it's just easier to work all the things together at the same time, as opposed to figuring out one piece of it and then having another docket that goes along on its own time frame. So just having it consolidated generally makes it easier for both FERC and the parties to hopefully reach some kind of settlement.
Carl, Liz made a point of having a delay if you get 10 co-ops asking for a buyout. Is that 60-day window from the time they get the request, regardless of how many they get? They have to answer all of them within the 60 days? Well, you know, or is it just they get to defer however these are requested?
Based on what Tri-State has indicated, the request will be taken in order received. And
Right.
as Liz mentioned, the document says that they will only do 3 per year.
Okay.
So if you got 10 and you happen to be numbers 1 through 3, that would be in the first year. 4, 5, and 6 would be in the second year.
So, Mark, we asked for a buyout number when?
November of 19.
So why are we, when they say, when, you know, you see who's looking at buyout numbers, why is our name not listed on that as well?
Well, it's a little bit of a, I'd say, process, because we asked for a number and they told us, responded to us that there was a moratorium on numbers.
Right.
And then when we became an intervener in FERC, they suggested in one of the meetings that nobody had asked for a contract termination payment number. Then a number of the utilities who had asked for buyout numbers provided or filed their letters with FERC saying, you know, well, no, that's not true. We have actually asked for it. We just haven't gotten anything. And I believe, and check me, Levi, on this if I'm wrong, within the last 2 weeks, we filed with FERC a copy of our November 2019 letter so that it's part of the docket. So it's there. I will say that it appears at times that the requirements for getting a number keep changing. And, you know, well, it was a buy down number, which is not the same thing as a contract termination payment number, which is not, you know, so that's part of what I think that FERC has to actually figure out is, you know, what the priority is going to be, who has actually asked for it, what's required to ask for a number.
Well, also it seems, Jeff, that, you know, the entities that filed with FERC asking for the expedited action on their contract termination payment, when I read that, it made me realize that I don't believe Tri-State had enacted a policy. They didn't have policy 125. So there was a period of time when Tri-State had filed their contract termination payment methodology, but did not have a policy that governed how you got out. For example, they could charge people or wait 3 years or any of that. And so those entities filed again. Well, they filed with FERC. Instead of asking Tri-State, they filed with FERC to get those letters in before this policy got sent to FERC, was approved and got sent to FERC. That was my reading of why that was done. We had already asked for our number. I'm not certain it was super important. I mean, we asked for our number before there was the contract termination payment methodology. That's now been filed with FERC. Then more people have asked for their numbers, but the policy 125 wasn't in effect. So there's been all these changes as to as Mark was saying, as to this, how this gets handled, and people fall in different slots. But I think it's all going to come out during that settlement process. It'd be hard for me to imagine now that FERC could treat, and maybe Levi would have a different opinion, that depending on when you ask for your number, you'd be treated differently. It seems like FERC would want to treat people in an equitable manner. But who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And go ahead.
oh yeah, so my comment to that, Liz, was just going to be practically, I'm not sure how you can be treated exactly the same, so maybe equitable is the right word to
Right.
use. You know, just, I mean, while I don't necessarily agree with Tri-State that it should take as long as they say it takes, you know, maybe they do all the calculations and don't release any of the numbers until they get them all done and release them all at the same time. But practically, I don't think they would have the staff, you know, to do 10 different calculations all at once, if that makes sense. So that'd be my only hesitation to say that we would all get treated exactly the same.
Yeah, no, I was meaning more like some people may think, hey, because this policy wasn't in effect, maybe we avoid paying $75,000.
Oh, right.
Or maybe we avoid, because this policy wasn't in effect from the time we say we want out, or a co-op says they want out, they don't have to wait 3 years because that policy wasn't in effect. And those are pretty, you know, those are big differences.
Yep.
Between
Yeah,
co-ops,
no,
and
yeah,
I would
we'll see
think
how they
that,
treat us. Yeah, because I mean, I do feel like they are trying to play that game of, oh, see, we got ours in under the line, so get us out now.
And one thing I will mention is that it's still in effect, but the shown number will come out to every co-op in March here, and should come out this month at some point. And they referenced that they thought that number would be plus or minus 10%.
Carl, is there an official tally of who has asked for their contract buyout number?
Oh,
Not that I know of. It's just the same ones that you referenced earlier, the ones that are printed in the emails and whatnot. And you're
Okay.
correct. We're not included. So.
well, so what emails are those? Yeah, I was wondering what list you were referring to.
I don't know. Like the last one I saw just referenced like 4 or 6 co-ops that, you know, have requested that contract buyout number. I'd have to find it, but just
Okay, well, so it was probably based on those that Mark was talking about, and I think it's 8.
yeah, maybe it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think he may be referring. There, I think that in the filing that was made with FERC to expedite the number, I believe there were
That's it.
9 or 10 co-ops that were there. We were not listed as one of them. Based on the settlement process and the interveners, I believe that there are a total of 11 co-ops that are participating in the process.
Okay.
But and that might have been sent, Jeff, before we filed our notice with FERC. To me, they're playing word games saying, oh, you didn't ask for a CTP because of what, but the only reason we didn't ask for a CTP is because it wasn't called a CTP at the time.
Exactly.
It's the exact same thing. And if that's what they're doing, it's frankly kind of frustrating. So that's why we filed the notice, to make clear that regardless of what you call it, we asked for it clear back in 2019.
Okay, perfect.
And so I will just say that the reason that we put this on the agenda was that one of the board members did ask, is there anything that we can do as a board? You know, can we send a letter to Tri-State? Can we file comments with FERC? And I think the answer to those questions are both yes. Obviously, as Carl indicated, Tri-State board has approved it. The board could still send a letter to them saying that they disagree with, you know, with portions of policy 125. I think probably a better avenue, since we are an intervener at FERC, is to wait till they file board policy 125 with FERC, and then we can provide comments on that filing to FERC. And we can identify the things that the board either agrees with or disagrees with, and provide those comments to FERC so that it becomes part of the record.
Yep, and it's my understanding that when it's filed, it will be filed with the CTP tariff, that it will be included within that. So we will have it'll be part of the docket that we're already interveners in.
Go ahead, Carl.
And I agree with Mark's assessment there. A letter to Tri-State at this point, I don't think will do any good. But being an intervener at FERC, that's where your voice will be heard.
And so what I would say to the board is, since it has not yet been filed, I don't think that there's a need for us to, at this board meeting, determine, what comments that we would make. But what we could do is, if board members review policy 125 and they have specific issues with it, we can put this on the agenda for next month and we can discuss it in executive session, because I assume that Levi will provide us with legal advice on some of the potential things that board members want to address. And then we can, I can work with Levi to actually put that into the form of comments so that we can file those with FERC.
Just a question, Levi. What are Tri-State's obligations once they pass a policy? I assume it goes into effect immediately, or it goes into effect when Tri-State accepts it? Like, what's their obligation to file it in a timely manner so that it actually, this all gets addressed? I mean, could they pass? I mean, otherwise it's like if they don't file it for 6 months, I mean, can they do that?
Well, so to the extent it has to be approved by FERC, if they don't file it with FERC, it's not approved and it's not effective. All of their board policies won't have to be, this one, at least parts of it, required to be filed with FERC because it's considered part of a rate. So that's why it has to be a tariff. So for this one specifically, it's not effective until it's filed, accepted, and approved. It can be accepted subject to refund, but anyway, general answer is it's not effective until they file it with FERC.
Right, but I'm just trying. Go ahead, Carl.
And it was filed, I think, the day after it was approved at Tri-State. It was filed with FERC.
Yeah, I don't see it yet, but that doesn't mean.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what was said at the meeting, that they would file it the next day. So.
Okay. Any other comments on 125?
And I don't know if anybody's interested. I'm surprised nobody's asked, but how Mountain Park's representative to Tri-State voted on this issue.
How'd you vote, Carl?
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to expound on why you did it, or do you just?
Well, in my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer or anything else, but I think it's way too complicated. And another reason is I think Tri-State is very sensitive to member unrest. At least that's what they keep telling me. And it seems like when we take a small step forward towards member unity, we take 3 steps back with a policy like 125. So I just think it's not appropriate at this point in time to have a policy like this, although I think FERC is going to require something. But I think it could be made more simple. And, I think Tri-State in some regard is trying to put numbers out there, since they said that they would put the show number out here this month, plus or minus 10%, but that certainly should give every co-op a indication of how if they can afford to, or give them planning numbers to work with. And at some point in time, if the issue gets really serious, then calculations can be formed. And I guess that's probably why policy 125 is in effect. But I think it goes to a little bit of extreme. So that was my reason. So, and 9 others felt the same way.
Thank you. It'll be interesting to see what the cumulative sum of the Shoshone numbers turn out to be, and compare it to Tri-State's equity and debt.
Oh, I can't argue, but they made it clear that it'll be plus or minus 10%. So, but that certainly should give every co-op an idea for planning purposes, and I'm not sure it's going to be much different than the one that Mark calculated, a year ago or so, whenever he did that.
So I guess just one final comment. I will send something out with a copy of policy 125 and ask board members to review it. And if you have specific issues with any of the components of it, to let us know. Levi and I can work on it. We can discuss it at the board meeting next month. And then, because generally once a policy is filed, there is a 60 to 90 day comment period with FERC. And so we'll want to put our comments together if the board wants to file comments, and then file those, as opposed to waiting in order to do that. And I don't expect that we're going to be the only ones that will file comments. I expect that co-ops on both sides, whether they are interveners or not, will file comments, because I think that, and Levi can check me on this, that other tri-state co-ops that have not intervened can still file comments in that docket.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that. It seems like they should be able to, especially with a new filing like that. But yeah, I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah, my experience with the Alaska Public Utilities Commission is that if you were not an intervener in the case, that you could still file comments, but you had to have basically skin in the game. There had to be some reason why you were filing, and the other co-ops being not, being owners but not part of the intervener group. I think that FERC would still allow them to file comments. And I don't know if you can tell us this, Levi, but I thought that Highline, prior to intervening, did file comments with FERC on one of the tri-state filings. And you're muted, Levi.
You mean on a different docket?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. They had. Yep. And I believe it was their stated rate tariff. But they did. Yeah. So there's always an opportunity to comment at the beginning of a proceeding. With this one, I'm just not certain, because I think it's going to be brought into our current docket, the CTP docket. So that's the part I'm not sure how FERC handles when they do that. Okay.
So we will go ahead and send, I'll send that out, and unless Liz tells me that somebody already sent it out, I will send it out to the board, and then if you review it and you have any feedback, you can provide that to us, and then we can maybe consolidate that for the discussion next month.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's take 10. Be back at 9:17. Does that work for everybody? And then we can keep pushing through and hopefully get a little lunch break in before our 12:30 executive session. That work? Okay, see everybody back here in 10.
Okay, we have some people back and maybe others that are just hiding behind no camera. Oh, there they go.
All right, looks like we're getting people back. Scott, are you ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Does anybody have any questions about my report?
Yeah, the report is in the new format that we introduced last month. The first part focuses on strategic planning initiatives, and then the second part is other work projects that we are working on that don't necessarily fit specifically to a strategic plan initiative.
Any updates on FEMA, Scott, or other than what we're seeing in your report?
Don has been working with FEMA, as have I. We have Dale, I believe, has done a lot of the uploading of data into the FEMA system. I'm not sure how long it takes to process that, or how long it takes for the money to come. Perhaps Don can give us a better idea on that.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Scott? Okay. Mr. Finn.
And then Don has his operations report. We will change that header because obviously the safety report's not there anymore. And similar format, strategic, and then other. And Don, if you have any comments on your conversations with FEMA that you can share with the board.
No, we've had some really good conversations with FEMA, and we're in a 60-day window right now where we're still in this discovery phase and sending them a lot of information. They've been really good to work with, remarkably quick sessions with them, and we're Dale and I and Scott and others are still gathering a lot of data and asking for things like lats and longs of different damages and things of that nature. So I'm pleased with the process. I'm experienced with the processes, and it'll change as we go. They'll continue to ask for more data, and we'll continue to provide it. So I think the process is going as good as is possible.
So Don, you said you're familiar with it. Are you? Is that through flooding issues in Iowa?
It is, yes. We lost
Okay.
a lot of infrastructure, and obviously I was with an IOU that was self-insured, so FEMA came in well after a lot of the things that we had to take care of, but yes.
Don, this is Carl. I have a question for you.
Yes, Carl.
In your operation activities, you said Leah McCain and Greg Frentress passed the merchant journeyman lineman test. Can you explain what that is, please?
Yes, so the merchant journeyman lineman is obviously different than the United States Department of Labor but it's a great set of criteria that folks have to study for almost 4 years, going through the books, going through several different testing procedures, and then there's a final that they take. This isn't a hands-on part. They still have to do their hands-on for the United States Department of Labor, but to be able to do that, and Leah, I was really proud of her to be able to take all those tests, understand a lot of the theory, the electrical theory, and understand a lot of the concepts that go into being a lineman through the merchant journeyman line test. Does that answer it, Carl?
Yeah, so what you're telling me is they are taking a test to be essentially a lineman then, correct?
They are, but they wouldn't be considered a full-fledged lineman unless they did all the hands-on and they had the amount of hours. So this is, anybody can go and sign up and take these merchant tests, and it's something that's just a nice feather in the cap for especially Leah with all the dispatching and all the operating of the outage management system.
So she has a lot of the technical, I'm guessing she got a lot of the technical knowledge, maybe not the
Amen.
hands-on.
Exactly. And you know, now she understands, you know, the electrical connectivity of the system and how the reclosures are operating and things of that nature.
And I guess that was my confusion when the word merchant was in front of it. I hadn't seen that before. So thanks for the explanation and congratulations to both Leah and Greg.
Exactly. Yep. They well deserved. Any other questions?
For Don?
Okay.
If not, we will move on to the finance reports. As I mentioned, Stacy is not with us today, so if you have any questions, I will attempt to answer those questions. And again, same format, strategic, other, and then any statistics that we have.
Mark, I have a comment before I forget. The form that Stacy sends out for our, is it the 990 form that we have to fill out as directors for our hours?
Yes.
She has sent that out, and I'm not sure if she's received any of them back. Is that the case?
I believe when I talked with her earlier this week that she had not gotten any of them back yet. Yes.
What's the deadline on that? So everybody needs to get moving on that and get those done for her.
I will, I'll confirm the deadline. I know that it is approaching. And I know with some of the stuff, end of March is a deadline. I don't know if that's the deadline for the 990. So I will confirm with her and then send out an email to the board.
Okay, thank you. So everybody, please get that done as soon as you see. I'd appreciate it.
Can she resend that?
Jeff?
Because I have not received it.
And Jeff, I haven't either.
I
And
haven't
I
either.
haven't either.
Okay.
I had another question. We have our new expense reports that are supposed to, from what I've seen and tried to infer, they are supposed to recap this for us going forward, all the hours and, you know, what we do, the way it's laid out. I have some confusion as to how to fill that out. And I didn't know who to speak to. I realized Stacy's tied up this week, but I had some real confusion as to where you put the hours, and we had like 3 different pages. And so what I'd like to do is be able to get in touch with her, and I know she's been busy, because I have no idea where you put the hours on which page, whether they add together or not. And I realize the purpose of it is to have this recap so we don't have to do it at the end of the year. But I have no idea where the numbers and hours go or dollars on the different forms. So, and when I filled it out last time, I wound up, she gave me too much money. So
And you gave it back, right?
Well, that's why I have to sit with her and figure out what I did wrong.
Well, maybe we could all, you know, it seems to me like I also, I mean, I wasn't really sure how to fill that form out either, but I'm thinking if you weren't and I don't understand, rather than have her explain it to each of us individually, we could do, at some point we could do a training. I also think like I pull my hair out with the iPad, some training on the iPad as to what it can do and what it can't do, and how the email system works, and how we archive those emails. Like I lose my emails. I don't know whether it's because I don't know how to use this Outlook on the iPad or because it's a company setting. All those issues, it'd be good to have like how to take care of our administrative tasks as directors training at some point. Just, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours of how to, you know, here are the forms. Here's like, we got the presentation from Mark that we're going to talk about in executive session. I couldn't figure out how to use markup on it. And so I'm scratching my notes down on, we could just be more, I know I could be more efficient if I understood how to work these things a little better. And we probably all could as a board.
And I do know that we had planned to potentially do some training at one of our board meetings on this issue related to expense reports in 990. So what I will do is we have managers meeting on Monday, and we'll schedule some time to address these issues and provide training to the board. I would say most likely outside of a board meeting. And so we'll have to notice that, because if we have more than, Levi, is it 3 board members that we have to notice it to the public? And he is thinking.
Quorum. Basically, if you have a quorum.
Okay. And
Well,
so-
yeah, so it'd be more than 3, it'd be 4.
Okay, so 4. But we'll figure something out, and if we need to, we'll notice it. I don't know that anybody's really going to want to sit and learn how to do expense reports, but it would be something that would be available for our members if they so chose. So we'll put something together and then send out maybe some dates, and we may need to do it in 2 sessions if we can't get everybody in at once.
Okay. And in the meantime, just get me your expense reports. I mean, if you have to handwrite on them or whatever that's going to take to get them to me, but just do your best to get them to me as time as possible.
On the board report here under other work projects, number 3, it says the 18th at 11 a.m. I believe you said 9 a.m. Mark earlier today. Has that just changed or?
Well, that's why you see the question mark after 11 a.m.
Right.
Because we had not solidified it at the time that she did her board report, but they sent out the notice and it is 9 a.m. Well, actually, I'm wondering if with the time
10th.
difference, it may end up being, let's see here. And now I believe it is 9 a.m. because on my phone, it shows up as 7 because I'm 2 hours earlier. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
The Zoom invite was for 9 Mountain Time.
Okay.
Any other questions Mark can answer on the finance report? Okay, moving on. Joe.
Just would like to add that we repaired the collector at Laramie River on Tuesday of this week, and all that information is returning to the system. Interesting to note that historically, we've always just looked at this as metering data, but now the outage information is rapidly becoming just as important. So happy to report that's back up. Otherwise, that's all.
Liz, did you have a question for Joe?
Yeah, how did we get affected by the Microsoft hack? Or did our vendors?
So you mean the exchange hack?
Yeah,
The
the
recent one?
pop exchange, yeah.
So we through a lot of notifications. So NISC notified us just as a courtesy to all their members. NRECA notified us. CREA notified us. I think there was some other agency just sending out blasts to all the membership, whether they used Microsoft Exchange or not. We actually patched our system less than 24 hours after the attack was, or the hack was public, I guess. It partially was patched through an automatic update of our system. I have not heard from anyone else that we do business with that they were hacked by it either. I don't have answers from Tantalus. I don't actually think they use an Exchange server the way we do. That's NISC said they were unaffected by it, as the other major vendor that I deal with on that.
Thank you.
I just had Liz and Dick brought this up, but I did have a note. My Outlook also, it erases all the emails after 1 month. So if you could add that to when you're looking at doing a training for us.
Yeah.
I can't see anything past a month for some reason. It's hard to go back and reference anything.
Right. The mobile Outlook has some limitations with how much it will store. I'll look into seeing what we can do with that, but it happens on anything that uses it, even a phone. It was sort of a design feature, Microsoft said, because mobile devices have limited amount of storage. I understand now that might not be the most appropriate in this setting, and we'll see what we can do to extend that range. It might mean actually using a different software package. It might be something that we can't change in the mobile version of Outlook.
So if a board member used a computer to sign into their MPEI Outlook account, they should then be able to get more history.
Correct. All the history is available if you use the web version of Outlook, which you can use on your iPad or on a computer. It's a little clunky being it's a web version, but it does work. There's also another application that comes with the security software. I think it's called Mail at Work or something that also works and will retain more data. But I'll update that and I'll find a variety of options for you all to look and scroll back and search beyond 30 days.
That'd be great.
Sure.
And just, I'm never sure if it's me or if what's
No,
been
it's
set
not.
up.
It's
And
30
so
days. It's a limit that Microsoft in their wisdom built into the mobile version of Outlook.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Liz, it would never be you. It might
no,
be Justin.
it would be.
Never be
It would
you.
be me. Justin will be able to work his way through it. But
I just have to keep emailing myself 30 days in advance if I want to keep a thing. So all right, every 30 days, email this back to myself.
No, it's not that way. We'll find a better way.
Okay, any other questions for Joe?
Okay.
All right, Jessica?
Okay, I think I'll start with GPA and ELAP. So like Mark mentioned, we're still waiting on the options for July 1st. We were hoping to have those today, but some of the reinsurance carriers, so that's our stop loss provision, are not getting back to us as quickly as we had hoped. So we will have options for you all for July 1st. Initial indications are that it is in line with what we talked about back in October with the budget. So no big concerns there. The goal is for us to get back on a calendar year for 2022. So we're looking at basically a 6-month plan to run out 2021. Employee premiums are not going to change like we talked about back in October. We've already set that. On the issues with the medical plan for the employees, so we are doing a few things to start, and then we're going to do more as we see what is needed. So first, we are going to have ELAP. So they are the ones that audit the bills, do employee meetings on Thursday, March 25th. They're going to talk about their general processes, which have been confusing to employees. They're going to talk about balance billing, which is a big part of that. So we're hoping that with additional information, employees will have a better experience with the plan. Additionally, I'm going to be getting more involved in the plan. So when we first started the plan, some employees expressed concerns about HR having protected health information of theirs. As you all know, as a part of HR, generally, we have not just protected health information, but a lot of information about employees that is confidential by its nature. So initially, we were trying to be respectful of employee concerns. So I stepped back and said, let's rely on the administrators and Frank to walk people through the plan. This has worked okay for some people, but it hasn't worked well for everyone. So for that reason, and to build a better auditing process, which is also insufficient after we took a look at it, I'm just going to be getting more involved, and we'll talked a little bit about that at the employee breakfast on the 4th, but I'm going to talk about that more on the 25th. So that is a relatively large change, but we just don't feel like there is a better way for us to make this plan work well for the employees. Let's see. Any questions on GPA, ELAP, and the medical plans?
Well, it was interesting to look at the survey and then also hear the questions at the employee breakfast. And, you know, I'm really glad that you guys are trying to address these issues and really get at them quickly. I have to say, I didn't necessarily realize that there would be an issue with credit reports and collections and those types of things. And I think, you know, while I looked at the program as, hey, people get a opportunity to select their own, to not have to work within a network, but to go wherever they wanted, that seemed like good flexibility and all that. And I hadn't realized some of the downsides. So if you guys are addressing those downsides, yeah, that's good. Good to hear.
And we're going to do everything that we can to make the plan work better. If we feel like we can't make the plan work for employees, then we'll revisit it with the management team and with you all. You know, employee experience is incredibly important. And I was the same. You know, I was really hopeful. Employees save money, company saves money, get to reinvest that money into the compensation program. It seemed like not necessarily an easy transition, because I don't think that changing medical plans ever is, but I was not expecting this level of difficulty. And, you know, personally, I have experienced it with my own claims. And it's not easy even for me. And I have a lot more experience with this than other employees. So I'm hoping that by getting more involved, I can help kind of smooth out some of these issues. And we'll give it a, you know, we're still working on it. But ultimately, if it's not going to work, then we'll need to look at some other options. Anyone else? Okay. Other items. So we are looking at using Employers Council for the employee engagement survey for this year. So they would conduct it, gather the data, and provide us with multiple forms of analysis. This was an employee request, and we have looked at using them in the past. After conducting the survey for several years, I can tell you that SurveyMonkey, it's great in some ways. As far as putting all the data into the graphs that I then give to you all and to the employees, it takes a really long time for me to do. So Employers Council charges a nominal fee since we're a member, so it seems really worth it. So we're going to keep working through that and hope to have them conduct the survey this year. Okay, on the employee housing updates, we will talk about that in executive session. So I don't know how many of you were able to see the NRECA cost analysis because of the issues. It is in there now. So a couple highlights. For Mountain Park specific, NRECA did contribute $25,000 to the air source heat pump pilot project back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018. In 2020, we paid $21,603 for the membership. A major thing that we use them for is recruiting. So on page 1, under workforce development, free job posting on cooperative.com. You can do a featured posting for $150 for the month. Monthly costs on other venues that are utility specific, so they're not co-op specific, but utility specific is about $2,000 a month. So some of the lineman specific stuff especially gets really expensive. So we do use that quite a bit for those resources. They also have a lot of programs that we do not yet use. So the list is there. If you have a second to look through it and let me know if you'd like us to pursue anything additional on there. NRECA had offered after the strategic planning session to provide us additional support on some of the strategic goals that had been put on hold with the pandemic and the medical plan and everything else going on. So I can bring that back to you all if you would like me to.
So Jessica, all in all, come to a conclusion, Mountain Parks being a member of NRACA is worth it.
Yes, I think so. Yep. And I think if we, as we start to hopefully move beyond the pandemic, move through the medical insurance issues, we'll have more time, Michelle and I, to look into some of these other benefits for you all, as well as for us and other departments, and it'll be even more worthwhile.
Thank you.
Okay, that was all I had. Does anyone have any questions?
Looks like you're off the hook.
Okay, thanks guys.
All right, Rob, you ready?
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. Mark has covered things our department's been working on, the DOE grant and the electric bus event. We just found out yesterday that bus will be delivered, and we have it from the Bluebird representative personally. It'll be delivered to Kremling, the school district, next Wednesday on St. Patrick's Day. So we tried to schedule this event as quickly as possible thereafter, and it just so happens to be that our event is scheduled for the very next day, March 18th. The school district, I don't believe they have school on Friday. The very next week is their spring break, and then we have the East Grand school break after that. So our choice was to do it then or to wait till sometime in April. So we're deciding to do it Thursday the 18th. We hope most, if not all of you, are able to attend. As Liz mentioned, Chris did send out a digital RSVP invitation. It should be in your email. So if you're expecting to come, please check that off. In addition, we will be sending out Mountain Parks Electric talking points. So Tri-State's media crew will be there recording some videos of the event so that we can post them on YouTube and social media. So that you might be asked to speak about your thoughts about the electric bus. You're of course welcome to share your thoughts personally, or you can use these talking points. Basically, we're going to be featuring the fact that we're liking the clean air aspect of the electric bus, the low operating cost, and the fact that it was a financial partnership that made this possible so that we could deliver this bus to the school district at no cost to them. So those are our major talking points. We have some details. We'll get that to you. Also been working on the director election and annual meeting preparations. So I'm not going to add anything to the detail that I have included in my board report, but I am happy to answer any questions you might have. Next week is going to be quite busy with the bus event on Thursday. The day before that, we have the DOE grant deadline, and then on Friday of next week, the scholarship committee is convening to go through the scholarships. We did receive 36 scholarships, a number of them from all of our school districts, so we were pretty pleased with that number. And the scholarship committee next Friday is going to decide who those winners are in their opinion, and that committee is composed of 3 people in my board report, 1 from each school district, and we will present who they select at the next month's board meeting. So that's what I would like to add to my written report, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Rob, what time is that the bus deal in Kremling?
Yeah, we tried to schedule it so that it could warm up a little bit. It's at 10:15 in the morning, Dick. And so the schedule is to have the financial partners say a few words, and then it's kind of a ride-along event. And we will be handing out masks as well for people. And there is, I believe, a limitation as to how many can go on the bus so that we have enough spacing, and we'll have that information and make sure that we follow that.
There's a conflict with the audit scenario. I just want to find out what time we have that going on. They're both the 18th.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dick, if you attend the audit exit conference, I think it's highly unlikely you would be able to make the Kremlin event.
Unless I take my laptop to Kremlin, but that's okay. I just wanted to make sure what the timing was.
You got to do the audit at Big Shooters.
Yeah, there you go.
Or if you have your laptop and you can multitask, you could drive the Tesla up there with the laptop while you're headed up there. So, Rob, can you give us an idea? You mentioned, I think, 30 plus applications. How many scholarships do we give away?
I believe it's 28. I don't have that number off the top of my head, Mark, and I'm sorry. It has changed over the years because we've added, in the past few years, we've added the Rosemary Scholarship and then the Tom Cyphers. But then I think last year we used to have a list of alternates, and we awarded scholarships to alternates. But I think it's 28 scholarships, and they total, in total, over $70,000. And the scholarships range in between $1,000 and $4,000.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Rob?
Rob, where are we on the election? Can you just recap those dates?
Yeah. Okay. So I believe the deadline for directors that are candidates that are running for the director seats is April 28th to turn in signed petitions. And so that's, we've got quite a bit of time on that. The petitions were made available in January, so they've been out there quite a long time in the director election packets. And then we will get that information to our election, it's not the supervisory committee, it's the other one. Levi, help me with the term. Credentials committee. So that's that means I will work with them to provide them with the candidates, the candidate bios, the candidate pictures, and then our list of members. At next month's board meeting of interest, Jeff, I believe the board has to determine the date of record. What date do you need to be a Mountain Parks member to be eligible to vote in the director election? And then also to approve our supervisory committee, the committee of members that oversees the questionable ballots and works with our attorney. So that all happens at next month's board meeting before the petition deadline. But then at that point, really, it is us working with our vendor up there in Minnesota to print the mail ballots, to send them out, and then they receive them, and they will count the votes that need to be postmarked by June 5th. They will count the votes that they receive. I believe they're counting them on June 9th up in Minnesota. They set aside the questionable ballots. And then the election supervisory committee will determine with our attorney's help the validity of the questionable ballots. And the day before the annual meeting then, which is June 11th, a Friday, SBS will come down here. They will count the ballots that are delivered to our ballot box in Granby. And they will also, so they'll go over those. And then the very next day, they will be at the annual meeting counting the in-person votes. So I think, Liz, you did mention, informing people about the availability of voting in person. I think we have some space in our May Colorado Country Life magazine that we can mention that option to our membership. So that's another way we can get the word out that is an option for them to vote at the ballot box at the Granby office.
Yeah, is there something, can it go on the ballot envelope or the instructions in with the ballot? Levi or Rob?
You mean that voting in, dropping it off at the ballot box at the Granby office is an option? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems like we want people to know there are three main ways they can vote. They can take the ballot that they received in the mail and they can fill it out properly and put it in its return envelope and sign that envelope, and they can either mail it to Minnesota or they can put it in the box in Granby, or in lieu of that, they can show up at the annual meeting and vote. And so I'm just wondering how we make sure that they know those are their three options. Because we're really kind of hammering on the mail-in or the meeting. But the mail-in is like, we mail it to Minnesota. Minnesota mails it to you. We mail it to Minnesota versus Minnesota mails it to you and you can drop it off in Granby.
Yeah, I believe unless Levi has an objection, I believe we can work with the print vendor to add something in there on the directions that they can also drop that off at the ballot box at the Granby office.
Rob, normally the petitions for running for the board had to be in by February in the past. We've extended our meeting 1 month, but we've extended the deadline for the petitions by 2 months. Is that creating any problem, or does that fit within all our, I didn't check all the dates. Does that fit within the parameters of when everything has to go in and out?
Yes, Levi, check that. I can let him add to that, but that's to comply and to accept as many petitions as we possibly can before the annual meeting, but it's to comply with the state statute on director elections. It does create a bit of a timeline pinch with us and the mail vendor to get the ballots out to people to give them enough time to vote, but we are going to tackle that as best we can and try to get them out in as timely a manner so people have at least 10 days to or so, if not 2 weeks to vote. So, but Levi, if you want to add to that.
Nope, Rob's got it.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, do you have any petitions back yet, Rob?
I have received one.
Okay.
A question, this is my first election going through. Does just the people in your particular district vote, or does every member vote on every district?
I believe they do not have to be in your district. Levi, correct me if I'm wrong. But to be a candidate, of course, you have to be in that district. Is that correct, Levi?
I'll have to check. Each of my co-op clients are different. For some reason, I thought it was just.
It is just your district.
I believe that only members within your district can vote on the director from that district.
Okay.
Oh, for the voting, yes. But are you asking about to sign the petition?
No, I was just asking for the voters.
Oh, the voter. I misunderstood your question. Okay. Yes.
And same with the petition. It really doesn't matter. On the petition, we'll get them from this district. I just wasn't clear on that. Thank you.
Okay. I misunderstood. I believe you can get signatures from any member to sign your petition, so long as they're a Mountain Parks member. But,
I see two other
from your district.
Within your district.
Yeah, it's within your district.
Okay, I'm incorrect. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's got to be in the district.
Okay.
But is the voting, I think, is membership wide, isn't it?
Nope, it's also by district.
It's also by district.
Yeah, because when we have gone back and I went back and looked at some of the prior elections, there are, it's specific number groups based on the district. So obviously some districts have slightly more members than others. And because we were looking to see what percentage of the membership actually voted. So.
Thanks for that recap, Rob. Does anybody have any questions for Rob? Okay.
Then we're on for bills for payment.
And I don't have any on my screen, so.
There are some, if anybody has any questions.
I didn't get any listing of any bills either.
It appears that there's
po-
like 7 or 8 pages.
Yeah, it's possible you guys, I just recently updated my iPad and maybe that's why, like I have the bills now. Plus, I have to say, I used the speed test where I am right now and I have 227 megs down. So it's possible I'm getting some of these things faster than other people, but I have the bills. And if I were Dick, I would have a question, but they seem, I didn't see anything.
Does anybody have any questions?
I didn't see anything either because I don't have a list. And I just updated again and I still don't have it.
Okay, well, if it comes up, Dick, you can always bring it back.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned.
Okay, let's move into open board forum and associated reports. Dick, do you have anything?
Nope. Western United just had their annual meeting, which was just basically information that was passed out. That was at NRECA on Tuesday. And aside from that, there's nothing to report on them.
Okay, congratulations on your care election.
Oh, yeah, I got reappointed or reelected to the care committee.
All right, Carl, you got anything? Tri-State?
Yeah, I do, if you want to hear it.
Yeah, have at it.
Okay, well, we had a tri-state meeting, first, second, third. Let's see, let's see here. One of the things that came up in the executive committee meeting was that the bylaw amendments that were passed in the special meeting, there's a couple co-ops that are challenging those, and one is Casey Electric. They are challenging the 200-member number that was put in the bylaws. You know, we had quite a bit of discussion about that, and I was opposed to that 200 number, but they're challenging that, and so there may be some other modifications brought up at the annual meeting. And then Poudre Valley wants to reconsider the 50% level to have a seat on the board if you're a partial requirements member. You remember they raised it to 65%. Now Poudre wants to drop back to 50. So that was something that was interesting. The regular meeting, the COVID has moved to moderate. Dwayne Hiley has COVID. The audit report was clean. We reviewed the 10K, had a cybersecurity update. Pretty confident that Tri-State is safe with all the precautions and whatnot that they have put in place. We went over policy 125 already. There's going to be a new policy coming out, possibly voted on next month, called Policy 317, interlocking directorships. I think they're going to send it out here shortly, so if we have any comments on it from Mountain Parks, they need to be in before the next month's meeting. When we join FERC, their policy is that they have to approve new board members to Tri-State, and that could take roughly 60 days. So if a co-op wants to replace a board member at Tri-State, they need to take into account that the new board member won't be seated for at least 60 days after they are appointed to Tri-State. The CEO report, Tri-State headquarters was flooded. Roughly
Hey, Carl.
$500,000 in,
Hey, Carl,
yeah.
real quick, so what was policy 317 going to do in relation to the director approval by FERC?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. They're
Oh,
supposed to
you have
send
to
it
pass
out.
it so that you can know what it says?
Yes, they haven't sent it out, but they should be sending it out here pretty soon. We didn't have a copy of it.
And that's supposed to, that's going to have something to do with the FERC?
Yes, it's due to FERC having to approve all new board members to Tri-State.
Has that happened yet? Has there been a new board member since?
No, it hasn't. But there was a question when like Dick with Mountain Parks has a seat on Western United and also Mountain Parks, they consider that interlocking directorships. So they need to have assurance that there's not a conflict. So the policy is going to address all of that, I think. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
So I'm a little
Okay.
confused. Right now, the directors who sit on Tri-State's board, FERC has approved them all. And then when there's a change of director, FERC would then approve the change of directors. So like the current
Yes.
slate is already approved by FERC.
But if there's a new director, then FERC has to approve it. That's what my understanding was.
So when,
And it takes 60 days to get that approval. So if a co-op replaces a director on Tri-State's board, they need to understand that the old director will sit for 60 days until they're approved by FERC.
so if there's a health issue or something, then that co-op just doesn't get a say on what happens at Tri-State for those 2 months.
Well, I don't know about a health issue or not, but yeah, if they don't have a member or a seat or somebody at the table, and yeah, they don't get a voice in it.
Well, it sounds like if they don't have that exact person at the table.
Well, the policy should be coming out, so I would wait and read what the policy says, and then we can comment on it then. And like I said, we need to, if we have comments, we need to get them back to Tri-State because they will probably approve the policy in April.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just a little unclear, like, I mean, I guess we'll find out when the policy comes out, but I'm curious about what is happening right now. Like right now, if a director on the Tri-State board was to be replaced by a co-op with a different director for whatever reason, would that director be able to vote at a Tri-State board meeting?
They have in the past. Now, this is all new to me that Tri-State or FERC has to approve the nominations to the Tri-State board. So I would assume that they wouldn't have a vote until they are approved by FERC.
But it sounds like it's the policy that's creating that, not necessarily FERC.
Well,
I mean,
don't
we'll
think
find
the
out. I'm
policy-
just saying right now, I mean, if they filed for FERC June, it's hard for me to imagine there hasn't been a director turnover since last June. And that if there has, either that director's been serving without FERC's approval and voting, or they haven't been able to vote.
Well, and that's, I think, what has happened. So. Anyway, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Carl. I was checking to see if you had more.
Yes, there was a $10 million impact to Tri-State from the cold. XL had a $650 million impact, and I'm sure you've seen the news reports about whether the PUC is going to allow them to pass that on to members. Tri-State was lucky that we could roll into using oil to generate electricity when the gas prices shot up. So that was really what kept the losses to Tri-State minimal. Credit rating was raised from the S&P. Safety report was a good report. Tri-State below the national average on all metrics. There is an uptick on the west slope. They attribute that to the announcement of plant closures that I don't know how that affects the psyche of employees, but there's been an uptick in incidents over there, and they're saying that may be some cause of it. Retirement plan, we're finally going to get away from the defined benefit plan. Cost savings should be $65 million over 10 years. So that's a good thing. Then we had a report about the severe weather events, the high, prices. The weather events affected SPP, MISO, and ERCOT, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Brazos G&T, the biggest one in Texas, filed bankruptcy. Then 7 directors of ERCOT resigned. ERCOT lost 46,000 megawatts of power during that outage. 37% of that was the reliable power, the gas power that they lost. They sent a bill to Brazos for $1.2 billion for that period. The reliability factor with Tri-State is that we try to keep 115% of power as what we determine at peak load. Not many states have reliability standards. Tri-State plans for 322 megawatts of reserves with a 10-minute startup to perform. The gas cost was $13.69 on Friday of that week. All the crate units were available. LRS had a small tube leak, but they still performed. Springerville, all available. The gas units were offline because of the high price of gas. And the ones that ran were the 2 units, I think it's Burlington and Lyman, that are dual oil and gas. They were able to perform. They don't usually use those units because, diesel fuel is usually costs a lot more than gas, but at this time it was different. So we had no wind from the wind farms because the cut-in speeds are 8 to 9 miles an hour, and the average at the time was 2 to 4. Delayed icing was an issue, of course. Tri-State is suddenly realizing that their renewable wind sources are not very geographically diversified. And that could pose a problem in the future, and certainly with the new PPAs that are coming out. All the projects that we have now are within 200 miles from each other. They're all, the PPAs are all based on the price, and that's where, you know, these outfits want to build the wind farms, so that's why they're all so close together. The wind and solar capacity was 14%, average 25%. No, we didn't have any transmission issues. The load shedding policy, policy 116, will be looked at. It was instituted and has never been utilized in Tri-State's history. So everybody kind of ignored it until last month. So they're going to give it a strong review and probably come back with some recommendations. The reason Wheatland and the Nebraska co-ops were out for an hour or two is because they are in the Eastern Interconnect, and that's where they called for, you know, the power. So that is because of the basin being an SPP and the upper part of Tri-State's territory being an SPP, and that includes Wheatland and Nebraska. We need to probably build more DC ties across the DC line to be able to ship power back and forth when a situation like this happens, especially if we join the SPP RTO, because it's very limited now. Let's see. Oh, loads and resources update. Public service is getting out of the Alamos solar project, 30 megawatts. It was, I think, an experimental project that was, I don't know if it was NREL or Department of Energy, but the PPA price was $136.70 a megawatt hour at that time, and that relates to Tri-State having a mandate to get solar on when we got into the Cimarron project in New Mexico, which was our first project. The price at Cimarron is like $145 a megawatt hour. Now we're stuck with it for the life of the PPA. We're trying to do some negotiation to get out of that, but it hasn't been successful. But Public Service is going to pay $41 million to get out of that 30 megawatt project in Alamosa. Colorado Springs is closing the coal plant and replacing it with gas, the one that's right in the middle of town there. They referenced that 66% of Tri-State's load is in an organized market at the time. Vestas announced that they're closing their blade factories in Colorado, 4 plants. Not sure quite what the issue is there, but they're closing their wind plants, or wind blade plants, I should say. And there's going to be a new CEO for Basin Electric. I have no idea what happened there, or if he's just retiring, or it's a forced retirement, or whatever. They didn't really expand on that. We have signed a memorandum of understanding to participate in the transmission line that XL is building out on the Eastern Plains to bring more of that concentrated wind power to the Front Range. And I think that's about it that I have on my notes, unless you have questions.
Carl, this is Liz. I was curious about the load shedding policy. Does Tri-State load shed non-members prior to shedding members, or is that addressed in the policy?
I can't answer that. I haven't looked at the policy. All I know, it's policy 116. And that, like I said, it was instituted a long time ago, and then, kind of really ignored it. But I'm sure we're going to get into that more in detail in the upcoming months, because they are going to review it and update it, and I'm sure that will be one of the considerations in it.
Okay. And then on the audit, on the cold weather, I think Mark had reported that Schaefer wasn't able to run because it was too cold. Is that plant winterized? Is that just sitting out open, or is it,
JM Schaefer plant was shut down because of the price of gas. That's when they switched to the Burlington, and I think the Lyman is the dual fuel plants on the Eastern Plains. But JM Schaefer, they shut it down because of the price of gas.
Oh, well, that was a different, I guess we've gotten two reports on what happened at Schaefer then, because in the report that Mark, in the debrief that Dwayne had with managers, the report was it was too cold to run it. Maybe it doesn't, but can Schaefer burn fuel oil or diesel?
No,
Okay.
no. It's strictly a gas plant. But what was explained at the meeting is that they shut it down because of the price of gas.
Okay. Well, that's just a different, and if it can't burn fuel oil, then your explanation is probably more correct than the initial explanation that we got on that. And do you know what the Laramie River Station, I think it's Unit 2, was that how much reduction was the leaky pipe on that Sunday? I know it was a big concern that if more resources were lost, we would lose a feed.
Yes, I don't remember the total capacity of the Laramie River, but I think it was producing about half of what it normally does, because they had a tube leak, and they were able to patch it and keep it running during that period. And then they're, shutting it down to fix it now. But it seems to me like it was running at about 350 megawatts, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks to those employees who made that plant work, because it was cold for a lot of people, and Tri-State performed pretty darn well during that period. For those who are interested, Wood Mackenzie has a really interesting deep dive into what went on in Texas and all their resources, and then sort of the issues afterwards, and how that continues to unfold. So you have to put in your Mountain Parks email, but then you can download the report, and they have a lot of really interesting graphs and sort of thoughts about why that happened and how to avoid it.
Anything else, Carl?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Liz, did you have anything from Green Power?
Yeah, I do have something briefly. We had a follow-up call with Tri-State and the weatherization provider, which is Northwest Cog, and Chris and myself. Tri-State has some money for weatherization that they are interested in. They're building a weatherization program right now. It's sort of a rebate program, but they would like sort of the acknowledgement from the co-ops who operate in the territory. So they would like our acknowledgement that we would like them to support weatherization in our territory. before they just come in and offer weatherization rebates to weatherization providers. They want to let us know that it's going on and have our blessing. And then the other thing we talked about is currently, if the Green Power were to send the money, that the $4,500 to offset, there are two ways weatherization happens. One is through a state program and one is through a utility funded Energy Outreach Colorado program. If we were to send our money to the state program, it would just reduce the total dollars the state spends on weatherization in our area, which is not, our intent is to have more weatherization rather than to just trade dollars. So we would like to send it to Energy Outreach Colorado to help with the utility funded weatherization in our area. And again, that would sort of need board blessing to say, hey, yeah, we want this, we want these programs run in our area. I don't think it's, you know, anything more than just saying we're aware that we're going to do it. It probably means, you know, 10 more houses might get the electrical efficiency upgrades in our area than if we didn't do this. So I guess I'd be interested to know if the board's in favor of sort of blessing Tri-State offering weatherization rebates and the Green Power sending money to Energy Outreach Colorado to help support weatherization.
I definitely would be, Liz. Good, two good projects for sure.
Okay, can I kind of take that? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay. CREA, we had our annual meeting on Tuesday. I don't know if anybody attended or not. If you did, hopefully you thought it was good. We had Dr. Tinker on there. He's the, I think he's the geologist from Texas. Gave a really in-depth presentation. I've been sending out, hopefully you guys have been seeing updates on the legislative priorities. The wildland fire mitigation bill, that's off for its first reading. So that's good news. And then the cooperative governance bill, CRA had asked for some more amendments. Those came back favorable, and I sent those out yesterday as well. I think a couple of the big sticking points on there was the fiduciary duty, and it looks like now the fiduciary duty lies. I don't know if you've seen those amendments, Levi, and I might not be saying this right, but the fiduciary duties, if say you're on Mount Parks Board and Tri-State Board, would be equal and not sway to one board. So that was probably.
Can you send those to me?
Yeah, I will. I think I just sent them out to the board. Sorry about that. I'll get them to you.
Thanks.
The RTO bill, it sounds like some amendments have been made to that. And I have not seen those. I don't know if anybody else has, but it sounds like there might be some juicy amendments made on that RTO front, but I don't know what those are yet. So anyway, it was a good meeting. Jared Polis actually came and spoke, and a lot of the leadership at the state level spoke. So that if hopefully you guys found it informative if you attended. And that's all I got. Any questions for me?
Yeah, Jeff, Carl, got one question for you. I got your email about 1138, the governance bill. I saw that Kristen testified before the legislature on that bill, and she was listed in your email as a board member of Mountain Parks Electric. Was her testimony her own, or was she representing Mountain Parks Board at that hearing?
Carl, I can't really answer. I mean, I can't answer that. I have not seen the testimony other than what I sent you. I can tell you that I'm not aware that she was You testifying on behalf of Mount Parks Electric, so I assume she was, testifying as a member, cooperative member. But I
Well,
haven't.
yeah, and then that's what I would assume too, but I was kind of confused when it was she was listed there as a board member of Mountain Parks, and that's all my confusion. That's why the question.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
possible that she clarified that she was there representing her own views. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
It's-
Yeah.
I didn't listen into the testimony, so I don't know. But people
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else? Okay.
I had just a quick comment.
Go ahead, Justin.
I was approached by a member that asked if we'd explore, at least look back at our net metering policy again. I know about every year and a half we look at it. And I think, just so I'm clear, I read the tariffs again, and I think I gave them the correct explanation. But their concern was they sized it basically right about what their house what their house uses, maybe a little bit more. And at the end of the year, it obviously rolls out. You can either it gets paid out at the retail rate, the remaining bank on January 1st, or the other option, which I think I correctly told them was you do have the option to roll over the excess energy from month to month indefinitely until the service is terminated, at which time any remaining excess generation will not be paid out. Is that correct?
No, the board at the last time we looked at the net metering policy, we took out the indefinite rollover. And so everybody now gets cashed out at the beginning of the next year.
And it's
I
wholesale.
thought that too, till I read the tariff and it's still in there. So that's at least in our board, in my board on the iPad, when I looked through it, I did tell that member that. So I need to go back and tell them again, or I'll refer them to you guys too. But
okay,
We'll need to check our tariff on the Mountain Parks website, make sure it's updated. But it is, it's an interesting question, Justin, and I know it had to do with NISC. And I think also the cash out is at the wholesale rate, not the retail
yeah, it is.
rate.
Sorry. I did tell them the wholesale rate, but so their concern is they build up a bank and then January, February hits when they need that bank. And I think they said they're paying $98 each of those months where they were expecting to be free and clear all year. So,
yeah,
which I know we've talked about many times, but so if we could at least check that tariff too, since I almost directly quoted that to them off of the tariff that I was reading. So.
Okay. Would it in that case, Justin, do you think it would make sense to do the payout after the winter season? Instead of doing it January 1st, maybe do the true up at the end of March so that we don't run into that problem, because during the winters when a lot of people utilize the power. It's just a thought.
Yeah, or in the fall. I think they would bank, I think that would allow somebody, but I know that, I think if I remember also, that was a problem with when we set that with NICS setting the annual, it had to be a calendar year for some reason, if I remember right.
Right. The way that it works within a NISC is that it accumulates in the bucket, and at the end of the year, you have to clear the bucket. And that's why we do the reconciliation. And I think the actual credit happens in February or March, because you clear the bucket at the end of January or at the end of December. So you're calculating this in January, and then I think the actual credit shows up on the member's bill in February or March.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else for open board forum? All right. Let's move into old business. Do we have any old business?
Not that I'm aware of.
about any new business? Anybody got anything new? Okay. Do we have a need for a services meeting?
I don't believe so.
Okay. That pretty much gets us done. Good.
Yeah, we have some items that we can discuss in executive session prior to the scheduled presentation that we have at 12:30. So if the board wanted, we could go through and talk about those. They're board policy D8 and 10, D8, sorry, and D10. And then the update that Jessica referenced on employee housing. And then we could potentially just leave the, well, of course, going into executive session, lose the YouTube, but leave the Zoom up and running. And then when, take a lunch break after we finish and then come back at 12:30 for the presentation from the part Connexon.
Okay. So I think Liz.
If we want to do that, then we will need a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice on board policies D8, D10, and have an update on personnel issues related to employee housing.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what Liz said, but she was on mute. So
That is what I said. I would add one more part to that, maybe, which would be confidential business or something like that, just in case it comes up.
okay. We do have a motion by Liz. Can we get a second? We got a second by Dick. Any further discussion on the executive session? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, Joe, if you could cut our